Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. I'm going to apologize up front. My rooster is nuts and he's next door, and I tried to have a conversation with him. He's not listening. So I'm going to try to push through, and I'm frustrated, and I hope it's not too distracting in a weird way. Maybe it's entertaining. I don't know. I'll do a video on, I'll do the video on that and post that before I do this so you can meet the rooster. All right. So anyway, jumping into it, this is a video on protecting your VA compensation rating. This is a very important thing. Now you have your rating, you want to make sure that it's protected, or at least know if it's protected. There are so many unknowns, right? They don't send you a little sheet that goes, hey, don't worry about it. Your rating's protected by X, Y, and Z. So I wanted to go through that with you, share that information with you so you have a clear understanding of what protections are out there through the Code of Federal Regulations and set forth in there by law, right? So it is there. Now, does the VA screw up? Of course they do. But at least you'll know where you stand, right? You'll know what protections you have so you can run to your congressional office or whatever or contact the VA and go, hey, look, I shouldn't be getting this because of X. Now, I'll preface it with the VA always has the right to schedule a re-examination on you, which could potentially lead down the road of a reduction. However, it's more difficult with more of these protections that you have. So with that, I'm going to jump into it here. Hit the thumbs up for me, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. If you're not a member, consider joining. It does help the channel out immensely, and it also helps me to find you in the comments. All right, so there's two things here. I'm going to go through the Code of Federal Regulations, read to you the protections and what they're looking at with regard to your ratings. But there's two kind of ways to think about this. One is you have all of your ratings, and in your decision letter, they may have mentioned you have a future examination for this condition. Usually it's within 3 to 5 years, somewhere in there, from their decision. Now, after that re-examination, they could decide to lower your rating. Now, here's the thing. Don't be the guy or gal that goes, hey, I got my rating from the VA at X, and now I'm not going to go to the doctor anymore because I'm done doing that. No, keep going, especially if you have a re-examination on the books, because no news is good news in the VA's world, right? Wow, you went to the doctor 17 times before you filed the condition. Now you got your rating and you were prescribed X, and now you haven't went to the doctor for 3 years. You must magically be healed. So whether you're self-medicating or whatever you're doing, or just pushing through, or tons of over-the-counter ibuprofen, aspirin, whatever it is, make sure that you continue to go to the doctor, whether it's your general practitioner or mental health provider, whatever it is. Make sure that you are continuing to document your condition and the severity of it for that future re-examination. Now, let's say that you don't have a future examination. That's a good thing. If the VA is not indicating it, it means you probably have one of these protections. So again, I'm going to go through it here, and I'm going to read through the Code of Federal Regulations here at 3.327, re-examinations. Now, a re-examination is what you really don't want to have, because that's, and if you do, it's okay. Just make sure that you're documenting along the way. The ideal situation for all of us is to prove to the VA that you don't need a future re-examination because your condition is X or whatever. So jumping into it, re-examinations, including period of hospital observations, will be requested whenever VA determines there is a need to verify either the continued existence or the current severity of a disability. So current existence, I have cancer, now it's gone, right? Current severity, I have 100% PTSD, but whatever, 3-4 years into it, they want to check the current severity of the disability and see if you're still at the 100% marker. You might have dropped to a 50, who knows? So that would be a reason for a re-examination. Generally, re-examinations will be required if it's likely that a disability has improved or if evidence indicates there has been a material change in a disability, or that the current rating may be incorrect. Okay, so that's another thing. Individuals for whom reexaminations have been authorized and scheduled are required to report for such reexaminations. If you have a reexamination notice, show up, whatever, right? This month, this date, don't blow them off, even if you have some of the protections that I'm going to mention. Show up. So, again, this is in the Code of Federal Regulations, and this is the VA's rulebook, right? Individuals for whom reexaminations have been authorized and scheduled are required to report for such reexaminations. Paragraphs B and C of this section provide general guidelines for requesting reexaminations, but shall not be construed as limiting VA's authority to request reexaminations or periods of hospital observation, maybe a sleep study or something, at any time in order to ensure that a disability is accurately rated. So the door is always open for the VA to figure it out. Now, the VA doesn't have the time or the energy, in my experience, to just randomly start going after people, right? You have to give them some sort of a reason to really dig in. Now, moving on, scheduling reexaminations. I'm going to get into the portion here with the protections that make it to where you do not have future examinations, which is also important because if you don't have future examinations, then you should be permanent if you're at 100%, right? So total refers to 100%. Permanent refers to it's, permanent and total, referring to you don't have any future examinations. So compensation cases, scheduling examinations or reexaminations, assignment of a pre-establishing rating requires reexamination within the second 6 months period following separations from service, following initial Department of Veterans Affairs examination, or any scheduled future or other examination, reexamination, if in order, will be scheduled within not less than 2 years, nor more than 5 years within the judgment of the rating board unless another time period is elsewhere specified. So again, typically, you're going to see your re-examination, right? You filed for whatever. You have PTSD, you have GERD, you have future exams for both of those. Typically, that'll be somewhere between that 2 to 5 year period. Now, Section 2 here, it says, and this is the important part, this is where the protections come in. So I hope to God you stayed on. All right. No periodic future examinations will be requested from the VA, okay? No periodic future examinations will be requested. In service-connected cases, no periodic re-examination will be scheduled when the disability is established as static, meaning that the VA has concluded or conceded and said, hey, look, your condition's not going to get any better, and it's going to be the same or worse if we check you, so why are we going to waste our time? So in a way, the VA is cutting their losses, if you look at it from a business perspective, going, you know what, you're essentially going after you as a lost cause. You're not going to get any better. We're not going to reduce your ratings because you're conditioned. We're just going to spin our wheels, and that's a waste of time and resources and money, so we're not going to do it. So if any of your conditions are labeled as static, then you have no future examination because the VA has already determined you're not going to get better based on all the evidence that you provided. So, moving on. When the findings and symptoms are shown by examination scheduled in paragraph B2I of this section or other examinations and hospital reports have persisted without material improvement for a period of 5 years or more. That's the 5-year rule. So, for example, you have GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. You filed your claim, you got a 30% or a 60% or whatever rating with the VA, and they said, hey, look, we're going to re-examine you in 4 years, okay, or 5 years or whatever, right? So they re-examine you prior to the 5-year mark. That's what this one's about. And you kept going to the doctor, you kept filling your prescription for Prilosec, whatever, right, and all that stuff. And now the VA did their re-examination, and they go, you're still the same. Now it's been 5 years, and you have hospital reports, right, or medical examination reports, whatever, that have persisted without material improvement for a period of 5 years or more. Now you're pushed into the static rating and they leave you alone. This is the 5-year rule. Next one, where the disability from disease is permanent in character and of such nature that there is no likelihood of improvement. So there's certain conditions out there that it's you have it and you have it. That's it. It's not going to get any better. The best you can do is maybe keep it from progressing. So whatever rating they gave you, they're like, well, you're not going to get any better. The best you can do is probably just stay where you're at. You're not really going to go backwards. So because of the likelihood of this condition never getting better, we're just going to call you static, right? So that's the next one. Moving on. In cases of veterans over 55 years of age, except under unusual circumstances. So this is what's called the 55-year rule. So sometimes you'll see it or you may have heard it. So the 55-year-old rule. So if you're over 55 and you got rated for X, and chances are, because of age and continuing to age, we're not getting any younger, that condition's probably not going to get any better. So under unusual circumstances, maybe it's a cancer or something like that, right? So maybe you have cancer, maybe they can get it to go away, right? Go into remission. So who knows what the other unusual circumstances are, but nonetheless, it's still another layer of protection. Moving on. When the rating is prescribed the scheduled minimum rating. So in other words, you get rated for tinnitus at 10%. Well, that's the minimum. It's the only rating. It's the minimum rating. So you've already got the minimum. They're not going to reduce you from that. It's already the lowest. So they will just keep you at static with that because there is no other rating lower than that. So if you have the lowest rating, you're good to go. Next one. Where a combined disability, I like this one. This one's important. Where a combined disability evaluation would not be affected if the future examination should result in a reduction evaluation for one or more conditions. So here's the situation. You have, 10 conditions that you're rated for. However, 7 of those conditions take you to 100%. So now you're at 100% with those 7 conditions, but you have these other 3 conditions that are just kind of extra, right? So they're not taking you any higher as far as a pay is concerned, and you don't really need them. If they all got reduced to 0, it wouldn't matter. So the VA looks at those conditions and goes, it's not going to change your overall rating, so why bother? It's not going to, it's just a waste of time, again, spinning in circles. So those are the 6 different line-by-line situations in which your conditions are protected by the VA. So you can have some sort of, sense of relief. At least I do, and I did as I was pursuing my 100%. If I was worried about my conditions getting reduced and stressed out about that, I would never have filed other claims. For those that don't know, I filed probably, and I don't know I'd have to sit down and really try to figure it out. I filed probably 7 or 8 claims, and of those, I think 3 were denied. I let 1 go. Another one I filed an appeal. I filed essentially a higher level review, and that got ruled in my favor. And then the last one, I filed an appeal through the board, and the board ruled in my favor. So that was my journey. And if I stopped at 1 or 2 or 3 claims, I wouldn't have made it here. But I knew that I had protections in my favor based on the nature of my conditions being static. Why is the VA going to reduce it? They've already said that it's not going to get any better. So with that, we'll go ahead and leave it there. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.